Hello, this is iRoxanneLady and welcome to my channel, and today we're gonna talk about Snooping 101 in Fortnite, and this is a first Snooping 101 video. So let's start from the very beginning. When you start the game, there's a huge map in front of you full of treasures and everything to discover. It's magical, but believe me or not, 50% of success depends on where you land. Because if you land in a place where you get killed straight away, then you ain't gonna win, are you? Some places like Tilted Towers and the desert area have tons of loot, but it also has tons of people to share it. Whether it's wise choice to go there, we'll talk about it in a moment. If you're gonna do snooping and if you want to win doing the snooping, you will need to start before you even land. So where is that good spot? That depends greatly on which direction the bus is flying and also what you want to get out of this game. I have divided the map into 3 categories: the red areas, the orange areas, and the green or neutral areas. So let's start with red areas, and red areas are the ones where you can find most loot and most people. I would say 50% of the people going to the red areas, at least 50%. So the 2 busiest places on a map are, of course, Tilted Towers, which has multiple towers, multiple levels, loads of loot, and of course loads of people. Which is not bad if you want to share all of that loot and if you want to get a few kills before you get going, and if you're confident enough that you can actually survive the battle and come out as a winner with loads of loot if the other players haven't consumed them already. Equally as bad or good of a spot is a Paradise Palms, which is a new desert area, and because it's new and it's very new, people go there quite often. But added to that, with Paradise Palms, as it happens, it is very similar to Tilted Towers. In fact, it's so similar that most of the Tilted Towers players have relocated to Paradise Palm. In terms of gameplay, those 2 places, Tilted Towers and Paradise Palms, are almost identical. Now, because Tilted Towers and Paradise Palms are such a popular location, right in between them there's a 3rd place called Salty Springs. Well, if you know, Salty Springs has always been a place where a load of people go, but because now they're right in between the 2 major destinations, plus the nice rift spots around that take you right to the Salty Springs. Salty Springs is at the moment the place where most battles take part. So if you decide to go to Salty Springs, you either should loot the houses really quickly or be ready to kill for like 20 people, because once you kill 1 and 2, there's more and more arriving once they have finished looting Tilted Towers and Paradise Palms. Mind, I must say, the most rocket loot I have ever seen come from Salty Springs. So if you want rocket launchers, your best bet is Salty Springs. And be ready to battle for it. But there's another totally new area on the map, and that is the Viking village on a hill near Snobby Shores. If you haven't been there, it's a very compact area with loads and loads of loot and roofs that you can't walk on, which makes the battle to be held on the ground only, or if you're building, well, there's no point in building this, such a small area, you just can't see your enemies. So battle in Viking village is mostly on the ground. Added to that, as I said, there's loads of loot there, but there's also a load of people going there, partly because it's new and it's amazing to go to the Viking village and look around because there's snow there and everything. It's really cool. But the thing with this place is there's only one winner. There literally is only one winner. You either lose or you win, because there's not enough room to share. There's not enough loot to share. Well, there is enough loot to share, but there's not enough room to share. So the winner takes it all, usually. And if you're planning to go and explore Viking village, then the one thing you should remember, you either come out there with 5-6 kills, or you die almost immediately, depending on whether you get the guns or whether you have the skills to actually kill the enemy. In a way, it's kind of like the old Salty Springs in a very compressed form. What makes this place even better is the fact there's like loads of rifts right next to it. So once you've finished killing all the people, gotten all the loot, there's always a way out. In the middle of the map to Salty Springs, of course. But if you want to do snooping, Salty Springs is probably not your area. You probably want to avoid the busy places. Now, because of the new season, Season 5, most of the other areas are quite quiet. And I reckon it's because Tilted Towers, Salty Springs, Paradise Palms and Viking Village have enough loot to accommodate everyone and everything, so most people will be going to those 4 places because it's just convenient. There's lots of people and loads of things going on. So you would think, I know, I'm gonna go to anywhere else, but there's a but there. Majority of people that go to Tilted Towers, Salty Springs and Paradise Palm are the people who go to explore, they want to see what's new, the dinosaurs and things like that, or they're really good players. They know that load of people will go there, so therefore they know they're gonna get a heap load of kills and therefore they head to those areas. Or there are those people who think they might get lucky because there, as I said, there is a lot of loot there and there's a lot of good loot there. They go there, they hope for the best, they fight for the chest, they get the loot and then they run off to a random direction, whatever they choose to go to. But then there's a group who's not interested in fighting per se for one chest of goods that consists of maybe rocket launch or something like that. Those people will go to the old places that they know were good. And they're right, because there are loads of other places where you can get loads of good loot. And those people are skilled players. And they tend to go to places that I have marked down as orange areas. These are not quite as red, but because the scarcity of the loot or whatever is going on there, those areas are dangerous, but for different reasons. Number one of them is risky reels. Then the reason why this is so risky is the fact that skilled players go there. There's a lot of loot, but not too much really. And the loot there is quite good. It is usually a place where the builders and shooters go because lately there have been loads and loads of buildings overhanging risky reels where the battles have taken place. And those people hop on the roofs and build up and do things, and if you want to be snooping around you need to be either really skilled, really lucky, bit of both, or just so good that they don't have a chance. Equal as bad are 2 desert areas. North, the cart track, and south, the 2 villages that are heaving off loot. Those 2 villages at the bottom of the desert area are the real mecca for loot. There's loads going on there. Fortunately, not many people go there because it's not quite Tilted Towers. The houses there are low down to the ground and it kind of works for people who don't want to build but don't want to be on the ground either. So yeah, there's quite a lot of fighting going on there as well. Plus, added to that, once Paradise Palm people have finished with the looting in Paradise Palms, they go to either the villages on the south or the cart track on the north because there's carts there. Golf carts are absolutely brilliant. Because of those, I have survived many times because they're really fast and it takes somewhat skill to actually shoot you down. A little bit less, but still crowded, is Fatal Fields. Fatal Fields is right next to the desert region, and as soon as people finish in a desert, they go to either Fatal Fields or Salty Springs or both. Added to that, some people, when they head towards the desert area, realize how many people are going there. They change the direction and they go to Fatal Fields instead because it's an easier option, isn't it? Plus, there's quite a bit of loot there still, and it's closer to Salty Springs if you don't want to go there straight away. Saying that, sometimes it is an empty area, depending on which way the bus flies. Another orange area is Lazy Links, and that is somewhat of a strange area because it's neither this nor that. It's supposed to have loads of loot, and it does, but it's very scattered. It's scattered over a very large area. It takes time to run between the chests, chop down the roofs and things. It is a bit of a drama. Added to that, it's next to risky reels, which makes Lazy Links the next destination from the people who land into risky reels. But if you decide to go to that area, be aware that people can shoot you from a long distance away because it's a very open area. So those are the red and orange areas. If you want to have a safe bet, please follow these green areas and you should be fine. But it also depends on which way the bus flies, because that can change the green areas greatly. Added to that, you probably noticed that I left some areas uncolored, and these are the if areas. Lonely Lodge. is direct north from the cart track. So people who go to the desert areas, especially people who go to the cart track area, will usually advance further north towards a lonely lodge. There's still a lot of loot there, plus the mushrooms and wood and all sorts, so they can get supplies. And added to that, there's a very, very, very nice and convenient rift nearby, so when they get in trouble, they just jump in a drift and fly away. If they go to Lonely Lodge with a cart, then they just drive away. So Lonely Lodge is busy, but not always. When you first land in there, it depends whether people landed there to go to the cart track or it's empty, because people are at the cart track and they will go to Lonely Lodge. So with a Lonely Lodge, you have a 50-50% of chance that it's unlooted, or who knows, maybe the whole herd from the cart track are already there waiting for you. Snobby shores are greatly affected by the Viking village on a hill. Those who jump off a bus and suddenly realize there's loads of people going to Viking village change their mind and often go to Snobby shores instead, because there's loads of loot, and why would other people go there? To their surprise, there's loads of people going to Snobby shores quite often. Strangely enough, Haunted Hills and Pleasant Park don't seem to be affected so much anymore. I suppose it's because it's off the main route from Tilted Towers, Paradise Palm, Salty Springs and Viking Village. As you can see, they kind of go in one line, and Pleasant Park is sort of out, saying that oftentimes you will find loads of people there who, for whatever reason, happen to go there, whether other destinations were too busy or they're coming from the Lazy Link, they've flown there with the Rift, or for whatever reason. So Pleasant Park is another area where there's 50-50% of a chance of there's no one there or there's loads of people there. Shifty Shafts has always been an iffy place. Being next to Tilted Towers, it's an obvious destination from Tilted Towers, or before Tilted Towers. But since there's now Salty Springs, the Rifts and the Paradise Palms, people either go there or they don't. At the moment, Shifty Shafts is a place where people go afterwards. The destination usually isn't Shifty Shafts, but there could be, because there are old school players, remember, playing this game too. And the people who finish in the Viking village, they tend to take a rift and that will carry you almost precisely to Shifty Shafts. So you need to be aware that there may be a load of people chasing each other or you, or it could happen that there's absolutely no one there, even at the end of a game. Dusty Divot and the hill nearby are likely to be very busy lately because of Salty Springs, and also added to that, there's a very neat rift spot next to Dusty Divot that everyone fights for, and if you didn't know, those rifts don't last forever. They last only for one jump, and then after a while they might come back. So people are fighting for the spots quite drastically. The football stadium that's between the Viking village and Tilted Towers, same as Shifty Shafts, is a main destination from people from the Viking village, because once they're finished with the things in Viking village, they take the rift and they drift towards the football stadium that is in between Viking village and Tilted Towers. Greasy Grove lately is always surprisingly empty. Fine, there's loot there, but the loot isn't terribly great. It's mostly white guns, ammo and some grenades, and you can go through most of the chests up there. Very rarely you find anything half decent. But saying that, it's not always completely empty. I would say 50% of the time there's no one there, but the other 50% of the time you will have quite few people fighting for those existing few chests. Added to that, there's a nice little rift nearby. The Flush Factory and the Disco Village nearby are invariably 50-50, full of people, like loads of people, or none at all. It depends, I think it depends on the bus direction or just by chance, because there have been loads of people without the bus being nearby or affecting it in any shape or form. So yeah, it depends on your luck really. Flush Factory is more likely to be with less people than the Disco Village, because Disco Village has a load of great loot in it, including major explosives and super sweet guns. Retail Row being in the middle of a map in front of the Lonely Lodge, straight off the car track, and the desert in general, this is a main spot where people go after they have done exploring in the Lonely Lodge and in the desert. Saying that, every now and then people do go to Retail Row because there is a lot of loot there, and there's also shopping carts and all sorts. It's worth exploring. If you land there, please keep in mind there might be quite few people fighting for the things, or you might be very lucky there's no one there. I would say it's a 50-50% of a chance of anyone actually landing there. There will be a load of people there later on though. So that's for the overview, but the science isn't over yet, because all of those red and orange areas, green and uncolored areas depend greatly on which direction the bus is flying from. And 2. In general, there's a rule of thumb that wherever the bus starts from, it's gonna be crowded. It's gonna be massively crowded. Unless it's something silly like Wailing Woods or the Junk Junction. For some reason, people don't like those areas, so they tend to kind of wait a few seconds before they jump out of the bus. And then they will land near the red or orange areas that are pointed out on a map already, or they will find something similar. People want to get out of bus ASAP, because the sooner you get out, the more kills you get. Added to that, the end point is always full of people too. And the reason for that is a lot of people are busy doing something else, and then they suddenly realize that they're still on a bus and they need to jump and they need to go playing. So they will jump off when the bus throws them, and then they will go to random place that's full of chests in their opinion. The other type of people who think that the longer they stay on a bus, the more chance they have, the more people will be killed before they land, so therefore they're already 50% in before they even start. So that's a great strategy. And for whatever reason there is, people leave it to last moment to jump out of the bus. Everyone there thinks that they're the only one doing it. But usually it comes as a surprise. There's like 20 people fighting for the last available spot on a map. And that usually does not end well for most of them people. So don't be one of them. Now let's take a look at the trajectories. The moment the bus reaches the land, the very start of the map. The immediate area where most people jump out is the red area, is the fast glide area, plus the hovering time across the buildings and trees to actually land. And that's what I marked down as the immediate red area alongside with the orange area. The orange area there is the distance that people are willing to travel right after they have landed. Each one of them want to grab a chest, and they know roughly where they are, or they just start going to random directions, and sure enough they will find something along the way. Now, as you can see, it will change the population drastically, because suddenly those green areas become orange areas, and the orange areas become red areas, and the red areas, trust me, will be even more red. For example, if the bus starts off from Risky Reels and goes right across the map, then Risky Reels suddenly becomes overcrowded for those 6-7 chests that are in there. Strangely enough, places like Wailing Woods will never get crowded, because who would want to fight for 3 chests? Nobody does. Plus, there's only trees and you can only hide so much. So if you're lucky enough to get a gun, you can shoot people, but if not, then people shoot you down. So there's not really much point in going there, unless, of course, you want to snoop. And then, this is a perfect place. You don't need to get a chest to begin with. Trust me, because the guns will come. We can only carry so many things, and the leftovers will be left there. Now, if a bus starts off from Flush Factory, and then suddenly the empty area where nobody goes will suddenly become very crowded. Adding to that, Disco Village is heaving of good chests and good loot and everything. It's a bit remote, and that's the reason people don't want to go there. If the bus flies directly above it, people will go there. Loads of people will go there, and loads of people get killed there. Added to that, Shifty shops will be busy then, because that's the next destination from the Disco Village. But if you happen to get a map where the bus starts straight from Paradise Palms, I can guarantee you that 50% of people, if not 60-70% of people, will jump out and go there. They will all go there. If you don't believe me, next time it goes over there, stay in a bus and watch this. When you're the rare one who stays on a bus, when you look at the back of a bus, it's like fireworks. There's tons of people jumping out right there. So I think I covered most of the things, but those things will also be affected by the weekly challenges and season changes. So keep an eye on those. if you get a challenge where you need to do certain things in certain areas, then trust me, those areas will be busy as anything for the first week to begin with, but then slowly reducing in amount of people. So I would say when a challenge comes out in a certain area on a map, then you could consider it, definitely consider it as a red area. And if you need to get kills, brilliant, it's absolutely brilliant. If not, well, those challenges can wait, can't they? Added to that, maps do change lately quite a bit, and new areas are always popular, because everyone wants to see what's down there. So remember the orange and red areas, mix it with the bus trajectory and weekly challenges and new builds on a map, and you can then quite safely work out the best area for you to land on. Because when you start off well, you will end well, most of the time. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you did, please give a like. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video quite soon then. And bye-bye!